Hi, today we're going to be learning about ecological succession and some of the ways that humans hurt the environment. So, let's get started. Um, so, as organisms live in a given area, they change their environment. This is something that we already know. As the environment changes, so do the organisms that live there. That's been a main factor of evolution. It's just how biotic and abiotic things, right, living and non-living, how they interact together, um, is part of ecology, and then how they adapt to their environment and how their environment changes and they change their environment and how they adapt to their environment over time. That combines evolution and ecology perfectly. So, what a happy place to be. Okay, so there's only two types. So the good news is that ecological succession is really, really easy. It's so simple and you've got this in no time. Like it'll take you like 2 seconds. So primary succession, okay. So before we do that, I want to get into the main words, okay? I'll probably use red. So when you see primary, okay, that word means first or main. And so primary succession, what you're looking for is bare rock because that is how you begin to make a surface. So when you look outside, right, like right there, I'm looking outside. What am I seeing? Well, I'm seeing grass. I see some dirt. I see a tree. And I'm seeing, that's multiple levels of a surface. But what I'm not seeing is all the bedrock underneath, right? All the rocks that went to make that in the first place. Soil is made up of rock that has been eroded. And so that's something that's like kind of hard to fathom is that all the dirt that you see, all the dirt that you stand on, all the dirt that grows, all the food that you eat originated from rock or an organism. And that's it. And so it erodes it down with processes called weathering and erosion that I'll save you a little bit. Um, and it wears it away until it becomes tiny particles. And when those tiny particles get together with some carbon and nitrogen and some organic compounds, they become dirt. And so all of this dirt was once something else. And it's kind of a beautiful cycle of life in that way that it once started as a big boulder and then it combined with, some other things, some other organic things. And now it grows your food or it grows trees or, it gives you a place to stand on or to live. So, anyway, just understand that soil once was something else. So anyway, primary succession is where you are starting from nothing. Like you have nothing. And so you have to deal with bare rock. So what we're talking about in this case is almost always volcanoes. Okay? So this is water. I'm sorry the water is red. So how islands are made is with volcanoes. So let me erase that and actually show you what happens because that's me just being funny. Okay, so what actually happens? So in the ocean, right, at the bottom, there are tiny breaks. And so here we go. So down at the bottom, here's the bottom of the ocean. There are little tiny cracks and gaps. And in those gaps, magma comes to the surface. So underneath the bottom of the ocean is a layer called the mantle. And so the mantle is just, oh, come on, Pin, is just magma. And so we're kind of just floating on this magma. So our crust, like around the earth, is just floating. That's crazy. We're floating right now. We're floating. Not only are we spinning, right? Like we're spinning, and we're orbiting. but we're floating and you can't feel any of this. This is crazy. Okay, so here's all the magma. And so what happens is when there's these little cracks, magma comes to the surface and it makes a little volcanic vent. You may have heard it called a volcanic vent right there. And so there's all these bottom of the ocean volcanoes. And they're not huge. Like, I don't want you to think like there's just like Krakatoa, but underwater. Most of the time they're small. And the deal is that the magma, once it hits the surface, we then call it lava. That's the difference. And that's the only difference. And it's so dumb. So anyway, so the lava, once it's up here, is cooled by the water and it sort of just falls to the sides and makes like a wider underwater volcano vent. But, okay, after a while, this surfaces. And so it does become huge at that point. So it will continue layering and layering and layering and layering and layering and layering and derp, 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 until, let me maybe make this a faster process. I have a hair in my mouth. Womp, 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 womp. Do you like my sound effects? No? Just me? Okay. So this will keep going until you do have a giant Krakatoa. But I didn't want you to think that they started as giant Krakatoas. Okay, so now we have Krakatoa. But our little tiny puny minds, all that we see is this part. Isn't that crazy? So, oh, another thing. Did you know some people think that volcanoes are floating? What? Floating? Anyway, so here we go. We have a giant volcano now. And it will erupt, but that's not the point. So I need more colors. Anyway, so this will cool, okay? Our new Krakatoa that we've made will cool. And so the volcano will then turn into blackish brown rock. Okay? So we're gonna just shade it. And it will turn dark under the water too, but I don't want to color that much. Okay? So we've got this, and then usually there's like a hole. Okay. You get the gist. That is bare rock. Now, there's no soil there. Okay? So soil isn't like a starter kit. You don't just like, oh, you have a new island, here's some soil. So this is bare rock, and the deal is that it has to erode. So handy dandy, rain will fall, and water is a super good mechanism for erosion and mechanical weathering. And waves are probably the best. And so it will continue, it will continue to crash against this island until it kind of wears it down. Now, good news. After it does this enough, and after enough birds fly over and poop on it, after enough stuff lands on it by the wind, then you get dirt. And once you have dirt, birds will poop seeds on you, and then you can grow plants, just like that. So anyway, that is primary succession. You almost always have to start with a volcano. I mean, if you know another way to just get bare rock, okay, but I don't. I'll have to think if I do. I don't think I know any other ways. Okay, uh-oh. Come back. Come back. Okay. So, primary succession, you need bare rock. Secondary succession. This one is the one that you witness more frequently. Let me get yellow. All right, so secondary succession, you need, oh, I didn't put it on here. You need soil. Okay, so this one, you already have soil present. And that's very important because that's the main difference. So secondary succession is after a disaster. So forest fires, tornadoes, droughts, what else? Hurricanes, things, anyway, bad things, bad things. So once that happens, here, I need a picture. Anyway, so what will happen is we have, you're going to enjoy my pictures today. I'm sorry. So we have a forest. Look at my trees. Look, I'm a forest. Look, I'm grass. Oh. All right, so sadly, let's do fire. Sadly, a forest fire comes. And it burns down the forest. Okay? Good news, it cannot burn down all of the soil to the bedrock. Right? So, what will happen is you have dirt still. Look at the dirt. And ultimately, over time, this will pick back up. And so you will start with grass, anything like that. And then you will add some shrubs. And then you will add small trees. Look at me. I'm a small pine tree. And then later, much later, you will get the giant trees. And they will come back. But it takes time. It takes a long time. So the difference is if I had to draw primary succession like that, you would just have, hang on, let me get my black. So you would have, a volcano, and you would have bare rock. So let's do this. So bare rock like that. And here's a big boulder. Look at me, I'm a boulder. And then this stuff called lichen, which is a fungus. So this stuff called lichen will land on the rock. Some of you have seen it. Actually, some of you, probably all of you have seen it. You probably think it's moss, but it's not. It's lichen, and lichen is spelled like that, so everybody wants to pronounce it lichen. But it's lichen, and so lichen actually has an acid that it releases, and it breaks down that rock into pieces. So no lichen. So it breaks down the rock into pieces, and it'll crack it. And then it'll keep doing that, and between lichen and the wind and the weather, eventually that rock becomes dirt. And then you get to have grass. So primary succession just takes longer because secondary succession doesn't have to go through the whole lichen process. It can just start. It's good to go. And actually, it's very successful to rehabilitate a forest after a fire. It actually sends all the carbon straight back down into the soil and like re-enriches it. So I'm not pro forest fires or anything, but that's why they do controlled burns. Okay, so I guess now we're going to talk about bad stuff that humans do. So I will see you in another video. Bye!